Hi everyone, I'm Jen and today I'm going to be doing a life update. This is a little bit different from what we normally do on this channel. This is primarily an ASMR channel. I normally don't post videos like this, but I thought it was important because I think this is a really important topic, not only for me, but that a lot of women experience, and even in terms of the body dysmorphia and mental health aspect side, even men as well. So welcome if you're new to this channel. If you've been on this channel before, you've been here for some time, I'm sorry, this is my normal voice. I decided not to do it ASMR style just in case we have new people coming into the channel trying to figure out what this video is all about. So also I would like to apologize in advance. This is being filmed in the middle of the day and it is New York, so it might be a little bit loud. I think I hear a police siren, so sorry about that. I normally film at night, but I was a little inspired to talk about this right now, so I felt I might as well just do it now. I'm not a medical professional by any stretch of the imagination. I am just a woman who has dealt with breast implant illness, who has dealt with the bad effects of breast implants, and I want to talk about that and I want to educate. So this is just my experience. Please take it with a grain of salt. If this is something that you're looking into, if this is something that your partner is looking into or somebody you know, it's important to get all of the information. So I'm just here to share some of that, or at least my story. So let's begin at the beginning. In 2006, when I was 19, I got breast implants, and they were saline implants. They are actually these exact implants right here. They are these. Well, guys, I got 350 cc's, which seems insane to me now, because thinking about having this on my chest is just, I mean, it's insane to me. Having this kind of weight on my chest is crazy to me now. But I had them in for about 15 years, again, which seems crazy, and it seems like a really long time, and it was a really long time. But I got them in 2006, like I said, 350 cc's. These were saline implants, but saline implants, even though they are not silicone on the inside, they have an outer shell that is made of silicone. So that's good to keep in mind, and we're going to kind of circle around back to why that's important later. But these are saline filled. They were McGann. I think that changed to Allergan or Allergen now. So they were bought out by Allergan or Allergen. I'm not sure how to say it. So there's still a company that exists. You can still get implants from them. And yeah, this is what I was working with. Anyway, I got them about 15 years ago. At the time, I was a very insecure person. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm a very confident person now, but at the time it was much, much worse. I was dealing with a lot of issues with self-esteem, eating disorder, body dysmorphia. I was with someone that was very, very, very toxic to me. So if this rings true for you, I am very, very sorry for this situation that you are in. You do not deserve the toxicity of your partner. You are not the problem. Please, please seek help. Try and do your best to keep your head up. Remember that you are strong inside of yourself. Just remember you are worth so much more, and please try to find any avenue you can to get out of that relationship. It was, like I said, for me, a very, very, very toxic relationship. He was very verbally abusive and ultimately became physically abusive. And he would talk about my body all the time because he knew it was a point of insecurity for me. He would talk about how ugly I was, how fat I was, even though I wasn't any of those things. He would say that as a way to get to me. So at the time, I was about as tall as I am now. So 5'8", 5'7", and I weighed about 98 pounds. So do the math on that. That's not healthy unless, you know, you're naturally that way. And I am not naturally like heavier person, but I was definitely not a 98-pound person. And it's because of all the stress and the toxicity of that relationship and my disordered eating, which really was impacted so much by that relationship. And I ended up changing myself. And I talk about this because that was the primary motivator on why I was getting the implants to begin with and why I felt I needed to change myself. If this is the reason that you are changing yourself, I'm going to tell you right now that that is not a valid reason to change yourself. I am not going to tell you to not go through with it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your body. But unless you are doing it for a reason that makes you personally feel better and feel satisfied with the results, and you're not doing it for somebody else, that's really the main reason why you should want to alter or want to do anything, at least in my opinion. You should not be doing these things for somebody else. Ultimately, down the road, you know it's a decision that you did not make for yourself. Somebody else essentially made it for you. And it's going to cause problems, and likely you'll have regret from it. So please, 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 I'll talk about this more at the end of the video, but if you are doing any kind of reconstruction or any kind of bodily changes because of somebody else, please think about why you even have that person in your life to begin with. And even if that person is helping you grow and become a better person, because honestly, if they want you to change like that, I really don't think that they are. Okay, I'll try to get off my soapbox about that. I ended up going under the knife because I felt like I needed to change myself. I had about a B cup and I wanted to be what ultimately turned out to be double D's. I say I wanted, but really it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted. It was what somebody else wanted for me or thought that I should look like. And so I got them, and immediately almost after getting them, I wasn't super happy with them. I didn't hate them, but it wasn't a decision that personally I was super invested in, even though I spent my own money and my own time on it. In the end, that relationship did not work out. Thank God I found the strength to get away from it. However, I still had these things that I was dealing with. And for about the first 14 years or so, I was okay. I didn't seem to have any major issues with my implants. There was no capsular contracture. I had nothing that was a huge red flag to me as, you know, this is a problem. This is something that is possibly toxic in my body. I was not told by my doctor at that time that these were not lifelong devices, that these could cause potential health risks down the line. I didn't get any of that. I was basically assumed to have done this research on my own, which you should do. You should absolutely do. But I also think there's part of the responsibility on the doctor to inform the patient about what the procedure is and what they're getting done and what the risks are. So I didn't feel like I was very well informed that way. So I'll get into the first sign of when I thought something was kind of off. So I'm a relatively healthy person. I don't really drink a lot. I don't smoke. I am healthy. I eat healthy. I work out. I do what I need to do. Everything else would always check out fine on my physicals. I never had issues. All of a sudden, about 14 years into having my implants, I wanted to try to be a living donor for a young girl who needed a kidney. And what that involves is a lot more rigorous process than just a normal physical. So you have to do a lot more in-depth work on what your kidneys actually look like. So this was when I had a doctor call me and say, you cannot be a living donor. Your kidneys do not function well enough to just have one gone. You need to have both of your kidneys. And they told me this isn't something that's necessarily a horrible thing right now, but it could be bad later on. So you need to talk with your primary about this and sort of get on it and see what you need to do to help your kidney health. This was really, really weird to me because we don't have a huge family history of health issues or anything big like that. And so when that came up, I was like, well, that's strange. And it's not like I do anything, you know, I don't do drugs. I don't have anything that would cause my kidneys to be acting strangely or to have abnormal test results or results that weren't shining and great and bright and healthy. We talked to my doctor. My doctor was like, yeah, it's not horrible right now, but, you know, just be aware of it. Just watch your diet. Too much potassium, too much sodium aren't going to be great for your kidneys. So just pay attention to that. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll be careful. I didn't feel any effects. I didn't feel like my kidneys were bothering me. So I just kind of left it and went about my regular life, just being more cognizant of kidney health. Within that year, between year 14 and 15 of having my implants, which would be this past year and a half, things for my health have gone really downhill. And those of you that follow this channel have noticed that I had a point where I was doing really well and I was uploading more videos, and then it kind of gradually declined and I wasn't interacting as much. And part of that was, most of that actually was because of health, because I was so tired all the time and I was dealing with different health things. It started out like I was getting all these kidney flare-ups. And when I say flare-up, I don't know a better way to describe what was happening to me. Is out of nowhere, seemingly nowhere, I don't really know what it was that was causing this exactly. I have suspicions, but I don't know exactly. I would get these really bad, I guess what you call interstitial cystitis in the medical community, but I would get pain from my kidneys. So back here, from my kidneys all the way down my ureters and into my bladder. So this very painful sort of inflammation, and it would come on, it would be so painful. So every time this would happen, this happened probably anywhere from in the past year, 6 to 10 times. On most of the occasions, I went to a doctor for urgent care or an ER, and they would tell me, okay, yeah, it's probably kidney stones or bladder infection or something like that. And every time they would test my urine, it would come back negative. I would have no protein in my urine. I would have no blood in my urine. I would have no bacteria. They even checked for yeast, nothing. I essentially was fine, and yet I was having all this pain. And I think a lot of the times the doctor thought maybe she's just in here trying to get pain pills. I wasn't. I never left with any. I never wanted to. This is not something that I care about. But I would go in and I would spend all this money for testing and nothing would ever come of it. And so I just chalked it up to, I guess my kidney health is just really weird, or it's going downhill. So I started looking up kidney diet and I followed that. But even following that, I was still getting issues. I was still getting these flare-ups. They would literally be so painful. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't barely do anything. Eventually, right before my surgery, this is about a month before my surgery, they started getting so bad that I would have bouts of having to constantly pee. I felt like I had to constantly urinate, even throughout the night. So in the middle of the night, I would have to get up and run to the bathroom. It was so unpleasant. It was so painful. And it was so mentally, not just physically daunting, but mentally daunting as well, because I had no idea where this was coming from. And I was so tired of dealing with it because I didn't get any sleep. That was weird. My kidney issues were weird. I kind of lumped that all in with a kidney thing. Then the other things that were going on was I was constantly in the last year getting bacterial and fungal infections, all the time. And again, I'm not someone that's unclean. I shower, I do what I need to do. I don't roll around in dirt all day. I don't expose myself to a ton of bacteria or fungus or anything like that. And somehow I was constantly getting these infections. And then of course you use antibiotics, which constantly using antibiotics also is not good for you. So I was on this horrible rotation of kidney pain and bacterial infections and fungal infections over the last year. My body was tired. My body was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. What started happening about 6 months ago is that I started having heart issues. And TBD on whether or not those heart issues are still a thing. The thing that was going on was I was starting to have really bad palpitations to where it would keep me up at night. So along with having to go to the bathroom all the time, I was having hard heart palpitations to where I couldn't relax or go to sleep because it's all I could feel. I thought it was weird. Again, I kind of switched up my diet, added less sodium in and stuff like that to see if maybe that would help. But then every time I would go to the doctor, because like I said, I was going to the doctor a lot. At one point, I spent $5,000 on one ER bill. One ER bill, $5,000. It was a lot. Each time I would go to the doctor from about the point of 6 months ago until right before my surgery, which was about 2 months ago, I would go to the doctor and they would say, your blood pressure is really high. And I thought that was strange because, again, I don't have a history of high blood pressure. I don't have issues like that. There's not really any major heart issues in my family. So it didn't really make a lot of sense to me why my blood pressure was so high. And I would try to brush it off like, oh, I'm just kind of stressed right now and whatever. Then my pulse would randomly be really low and then really high. I've heard of POTS. I don't know that much about it, but it was what I imagine is similar to a POTS-like symptom. So when you stand up, as far as I know, your heart rate then gets really high. And then when you're just chilling and lying down, sometimes your heart rate can be really, really low. Anyway, that was happening to me too, where I would have a really low resting heart rate and then it would shoot up as soon as I would get out of bed or anything like that from a seated position. And it would cause me to be super lightheaded and super dizzy. I don't know if that's necessarily related to blood pressure or anything like that. This is just what was happening to me. And right before my surgery, I was required to get an EKG, and the EKG came back abnormal. I can't tell you why the EKG came back abnormal. Sometimes it just kind of happens. I've heard that it can sometimes be a fluke, but I wasn't surprised by that result. I still need to get another EKG now that I'm post-op to kind of check and see where I'm at. We'll see. The verdict is still out on that. The other weird thing that was happening is, yes, I'm a pretty vain person. I'm not, like I said, the most secure person. So I would get fillers, and I had stopped getting fillers because every time I would get them, they would just sit, like I had them under here and they would just sit like in a big clump under my skin. It was the weirdest thing. It would just cause this big lump. And I was like, well, this is stupid. Why am I getting fillers if they're just creating these weird lumps in my face? That's dumb. So the next weird thing was that I was getting a ton of inflammation, especially right before my surgery, my explant surgery, which was 2 months ago. So in the past year, I was getting really, really bad inflammation, and inflammation in the sense that my joints hurt a lot. It hurt to just walk a little bit. I had a hard time just getting around to where I felt like I was getting arthritis, and I'm 34. I know that people have arthritis, but it would just be weird for me to get arthritis given my prior health and my history, my family history. And now, guys, at this point, I still have no idea what's going on with my body. I assume at this point that it has something to do with maybe early stages of kidney disease. I have no clue at this point what is going on. So I'm just deteriorating. This is 1 month prior to my explant. I was in the worst shape pretty much I'd been in my entire life in terms of how I felt physically and mentally, because I was dealing with, like I said, a ton of inflammation. I was even getting, this is a weird thing too. I was getting mucosales. I think that's how they're pronounced. There are these little pockets of saliva that usually happen because you have trauma to your mouth or somebody's hit you or something like that, at least as far as I know. I would get them like 1 to 3 of them a day, and they're like these little pockets that appear. They feel like little lumps in your mouth of saliva, and they would burst and then they go away. It's not like super painful or anything, but it's really annoying. And I was starting to get those constantly, and I felt that it had to do with the inflammation because my body was so inflamed, and maybe my salivary glands were also so inflamed. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know why. This is just another weird anomaly that was happening that I didn't know how to explain. My joints hurt, even just on short walks with my dog. I could barely get out of bed. I would have to pee constantly. A doctor ended up checking me for diabetes. I did not have diabetes. My blood sugar was fine. And then what ended up really tipping me over the edge was the fact that each day I would get this really, really bad, constantly throughout the day, overwhelming feelings of nausea, extreme nausea, to where I luckily didn't throw up at all. I didn't puke, but it was just this overwhelming sensation of nausea. And that in itself was pretty debilitating. And would cause me to just stop. Basically, once I got the energy to get out of bed, if I had that wave of nausea, I'd have to sit right back down and I'd have to just stop everything that I was doing again to concentrate on making the nausea go away. Again, went to the doctor, checked me for pregnancy, not pregnant, nothing like that. Checked me for bacterial infections, checked me for diabetes, nothing. I was doing all of the classic symptoms of kidney disease, diabetes, and all that, but had nothing. And so I went home. I was really tired. I was really exhausted, and I don't consider myself a particularly spiritual or religious person, but I prayed at that point. I was just like, I don't know what else to do. So I kind of meditated on it, and I was like, please give me some kind of point in the right direction, universe, if you can. I am so desperate here to just feel better, because I literally felt like I was dying and trapped in a prison of my own body. I get kind of teary-eyed just thinking about it, because it was so, I'll never take for granted the abilities that I have, just being able to get out of bed and feel okay in the morning, and like I can get up and get on with my day. I will never take that for granted again. But it was probably 2 days later when I started feeling a really severe pain in my right breast. So severe that, again, because I had the other things keeping me up at night, this was also keeping me up at night. It was like a very throbbing, pulsing pain. And it was really overwhelming. It was all I could think about when I was trying to go to sleep. And I thought at that point that it was possible that I had breast cancer, because where is your mind going to go? You look online and it's like, you have cancer if you have anything. So I thought, I have breast cancer. Oh my God. And I'm trying to feel around for a lump, for anything. I can't really feel anything. I get really concerned at that point, because not that I wasn't concerned before, but at this point now it's all kind of becoming real. And so the potential of cancer is really scary to me. My father died of AML, and it's just something that is really, really terrifying to me, as it is for many, many people. So I end up deep diving into the internet more on breast cancer. And what comes up when I'm Googling breast cancer is this thing called BII. And BII is not really widely recognized. It's called breast implant illness. Basically, it's a ton of symptoms, and I'll put them up here. It's everything that you could possibly think of. So it's kind of like Lyme disease in the sense that your symptoms can range from very mild to very severe on a whole gamut of things, a whole spectrum of things. So I looked at the BII symptom list and I thought, well, I tick a lot of these boxes, a ton of these boxes. And now that my breast is hurting, I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it. This is also the same time that the FDA put out new warnings to talk about the issues that are caused by breast implants. So I'll post below more information on that, but basically the FDA is saying that they have to include boxed warnings, and that doctors now have to go through a checklist of the risks and issues that can result from breast implants, because they are becoming more widely known, and it's becoming an increasingly large community of women that deal with these symptoms. Because when I got into the support groups on Facebook and started looking more into other women's stories about this, they sounded just like me. And it was the first time that I felt really validated in how I was feeling and the issues that I was experiencing, possibly from my breast implants. So if you want to look more into these warnings, I encourage you to do your research. Again, I'll drop below the information from what the FDA put out back in October. And here's the thing. My doctor never told me, oh, after 10 years, you'll need to get them replaced. It was more of a recommendation when I got them than it was sort of the absolute standard for people. So I thought, at 10 years, I'm not really having any problems. I talked to my doctor about it. They said it's fine. You can leave them in unless you're having issues. And I thought, well, I'll know if there's an issue. One boob will be bigger than another. Well, I was wrong about that. I decide to start looking into different explant doctors and start thinking about, okay, maybe this is a huge problem. I need to get these out, if anything, just to stop the breast pain that I'm having, because I assume that it's coming from the implant, or at least if there's any kind of cancer or tumor or anything like that, it's going to have to come out anyway. Well, I start looking at doctors and I come across Dr. Shahar Khan out of Novi, Michigan. He is an amazing, amazing surgeon. So if you are in a position similar to mine, I would encourage you to look up Dr. Khan and check out even just what he has to say. I'll link his YouTube below. I'm going to come back to these and we're going to talk a little bit about these. I won't go into depth about them, but I think I said before, even though it is a saline implant, it is a silicone shell. And what Dr. Shahar Khan and other doctors are trying to figure out is whether or not your body from day one leaches silicone from the outer shell and it gets into your bloodstream, and therefore you're constantly having to detox. Over time, you might start out pretty healthy, but over time your body has to compensate for that continuous detox of silicone. And they think, again, this is not something that I necessarily know for a fact, and again, I'm not a doctor, they seem to think the silicone is leached from the implant into the capsule, which a capsule is something that if you have any kind of device put into your body will form a protective capsule over it. I don't know if it's like tissue or what it is, but your body puts a capsule over it to say, walling this off from the rest of the body. Now, people with something like a heart monitor or a pacemaker, they'll be on, as far as I know, immune suppressant drugs to keep the body from attacking that device. But they don't do that with implants. And so the likelihood is greater that your body is going to go after these, or at some point, potentially the silicone is going to get into your system and you are going to have issues that way. If you want more information, Dr. Shahar Khan actually just put out a new video on his YouTube about the silicone leaching that potentially happens from day one of implant, whether it's silicone, whether it's saline. And this research is kind of in its infancy, as far as I can tell. There's not a ton of research done about it, but I would encourage you to look at it and inform yourself about it, because this is the only way I can explain what was happening with me. Dr. Khan does not do a lift, which to me, I was like, you're not going to do a lift after 15 years of having this in my body, and we think that it's all just gonna go back to normal. Okay. But he says it's too much trauma to the tissue and that you should wait. And then a lot of doctors that do a lift causing more trauma to the tissue that is completely unnecessary and you don't need it, that the skin actually does retract. The guy is a microsurgeon, he's a reconstructive surgeon, he's seen all this stuff, so I'm like, I guess I'm gonna trust him. He was right though. He was honestly right. He didn't need a lift, and I didn't have a fat transfer or anything else like that. I just had the explant, and the explant involves so basically it's different than the implant, because with an implant, there are a couple of different ways they can go in very discreetly. The explant has to be a full, if you want it done right and you don't want any more toxins or anything like that getting into your body, you need to get out not only the implant, but you need to get the capsule as well that your body has formed around the implant and anything that has leaked out. So they will cut underneath your breast and make 2 lines and take them out that way and make sure that everything is taken out. For me, some doctors use drains to drain out the fluid at the end of your surgery. Dr. Khan does not use drains unless he absolutely has to. I was in compression in a little lovely compression binder for 6 weeks after surgery. So my surgery was about 2 months ago. So for about a month and a half, I was in a compression binder day and night. And it was not the most fun thing. I did get used to it. But I was glad for it because I was really freaked out by the idea of drains. So if you want a doctor that doesn't use drains, he's a really, really good one. We're gonna get a little somber here. We're gonna get a little bit real. We're gonna talk about some things. So I said at the beginning of this video, I dealt with body dysmorphia. I still do. I still deal with a lot of body image issues. And going from feeling like, okay, this is what my body looks like for 15 years and feeling pretty okay with that. And then having such a drastic change for anyone is tough, in particular people that deal with issues with body image. I was terrified of what I was going to see afterward. And if you are in the same position, if you are looking to get your breast implants removed, or if you're going under reconstructive surgery or anything like that, and you are really afraid, just know that you are not alone in that. I was so scared. And there's not a lot of people out there that really talk about the scary, upsetting kind of aspects of it. There's a lot of people that are very proud after their surgery, and I'm happy for them that they love their breasts, they love their new body, and they were really okay with it. But I wasn't, and I'm getting better. But when I had the surgery, everything seemed to go fine. I was under local anesthesia. I don't remember a thing. The surgery took about 4 hours or so, and then I was brought home and I recovered at my mom's house. My stepdad had to kind of walk me in my very loopy state, but I went home the same day. About 5 days later, they were able to take off the tape from underneath my breast and take me out of the bandages. And I didn't want to look. The first time I had my mom look at them, and I saw the look in her eyes, and I was like, I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him. I'm too scared. I'm too freaked out. I don't want to see them. And it took me a couple more days to get up the courage to look at them myself and to not be so afraid. When I did, I almost fainted. This ominous sound as I say that, like an ominous rumbling as I say that. I took off the binder and I kind of fell to pieces. I went up really in my head and just felt like I was going to pass out. And it was, I would say, the first 2 weeks, all I did was cry. It didn't look like me. The best way I can describe it is like two kind of smashed, run over pancakes on your chest. And I'm sorry if that's too graphic for you, but for those of you who need to hear that and need to hear about somebody who wasn't happy right after, it was me. I was not happy. And I cried every day. I cried every day for like 2 weeks because I just was so afraid of what I was going to look like. And the idea of having to be patient and not be able to fix something right away was scary to me. It was scary that I know I was going to have to deal with that for a while, and that it wasn't going to change, necessarily for a little bit. But I went into the support groups and I started telling women, or asking them, does this get better? Tell me this gets easier. And I had shared a few pictures, and the women in the group were so supportive and so helpful. And they said, please look at the other things that you have. Your body is great. I wish I looked like that. And they said these really, really kind things that they didn't have to say that really, really made me sort of slowly but surely get out of my head about what I looked like and feel better about it. And as the weeks kind of passed, I came out of that sadness and I sort of came into an acceptance of this is how it is right now. And this is how it might be for a little while. But think about all of the things that you have and all of the gifts that you have now. I realized that there was so much more out there to be happy about, to feel beautiful about. And it was a really huge period, even just in those few weeks, of mental growth for me. And anyone that's going through something similar, it's okay to be sad, and your feelings are valid, and you're not alone in that sadness. And you might feel awful for a little while, and you might not feel like yourself for a little while, and that's okay. I will say though, around the 3-week time, it started to turn around. A lot of the swelling had gone down. I was because of the compression, everything was really like closed in, and things started, they call it fluffing out. It's a weird term, but your breast tissue starts to fill out on its own naturally a few weeks or so after surgery, and once you start to get out of that compression. And to my surprise, they started filling out more. Would I say that I'm necessarily the most, let's see here, the most well-endowed gal that way? No. But they started filling out, and they started looking more like breasts and not just like they were run over roadkill. They started looking normal again. And I was so happy and so relieved. And at this point, I'm about 2 months out. I'm about 2 months post-op. And honestly, I feel like they are, like, there's still some scarring, there's still some swelling, but they look good to me. And my doctor was right. I didn't need a lift. I'm about an A or a B cup, like 32 A or B at this point, and I went down from like a double D. And he is right. The skin retracts. It is amazing how much your body can heal itself. And to be honest, now I'm actually amazed at the results from it. And I feel good. And I'm starting to get that confidence back slowly but surely. And there is hope. So especially if you're in the same position and you don't feel good after surgery and you feel not like yourself, again, know that you are not alone in that feeling. Not everyone comes out of it super happy and super excited about what they look like. It's like any kind of surgery, we all heal differently. And for some of us, it just takes more time. And you can always go back later if you need to. But for now, the way that I see it is I don't feel like I need to go back for anything. I really was afraid I would need to go back for some fat transfer or something like that, just feeling like nothing was quite right. I'm happy where I am. And I feel a lot better about it. So just know that healing takes time. And if you're scared of what you see right away, it happens and it's okay. And give yourself time, and please, please, please be patient with yourself. Be patient with your body. Be patient with the process. This is not necessarily something that happens overnight, and there is a lot of trauma to the tissue. So, work with it. Do what you can and try to focus on other things. Sometimes you just need people to kind of tell you the things that they love you for, that you're beautiful for, just to get your mind out of that one focused area. So now I'm about 2 months post-op, and like I said, I'm really, really happy and surprised at the results. Ultimately, all of my symptoms that I was talking about before have either gone away or completely disappeared. And so I know, at least for me, my truth is it had to be these guys right here. It had to be my breast implants. They found, luckily, in the toxicity report and the toxicology report, they didn't find anything, no traces of cancer or anything like that, but they did find inflammation. So for whatever reason, my body was going after them, and there was a ton of inflammation in the capsules. So we know that was a thing. Why exactly? Well, they're still doing research on that. So we'll see. I did start an anti-inflammatory diet for anyone that's going through this and you want to help your sort of detox process along. About a month in, I started a detox diet, and to be honest, it's not the best diet. It kind of sucks. It's literally, I have my sheet in front of me to remind me of what it entails. So limit caffeine, no alcohol, no starchy carbs or vegetables, which that's really the bane of my existence. No high glycemic fruit, but you can have berries. That is what I tend to eat nowadays. No added sugar, no refined sugar, and limited sodium. So it's a rabbit diet if I've ever had one, but you can look it up, anti-inflammatory diet. It sucks, but I'm going to be on it for at least the next couple of weeks because it does seem to be helping to get rid of the lasting little bit of things that I'm having in terms of inflammation. So It's helped a lot. So to wrap up, if you've come this far, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. If anyone needs extra support, and I don't mean in terms of your bra, I mean in terms of moral support or mental support, if you're going through something similar, please comment below. I am happy to discuss more with you. I am happy to answer questions, obviously within reason. The biggest thing that I can say is those of you that are looking to get implants, please, please, please look at the reasoning why you are getting these implants first before you try and change your body. And this is a lesson for myself as well. Try to love yourself. And I know it's really hard. That is a huge challenge for most of us, but try to find some way of self-love. Try to focus on things that you can even ask other people, what do you love about me? Make a list of those things and try to remind yourself of those things, because there are so many reasons to love you. I promise you, there are so many reasons to love you and so many reasons why you are beautiful. And it doesn't just have to do with this, okay? I'm not going to tell you don't get implants. If you're dead set on getting implants, I understand. I was once you. I was once that person. But looking back and knowing what I know now and having been through what I've been through, I want to slap my former self. I want to be like, what are you doing? Don't do that. It's a terrible idea. You will feel awful. It's so not worth it, at least in my opinion. So I'm not going to tell you what to do with your body, but I will say that there are other alternatives. I think that in the next few years, a fat transfer is going to be the number one thing that women get instead of a breast implant. And I say that because fat transfers, they essentially lipo out fat from some part of your body and then they put it into your breast. Now, this is not without complications. You can Google that too. There are plenty of complications that come along with fat transfer. But the one thing is that you cannot be allergic to your own fat. So already it's leaps and bounds ahead, at least in my opinion, of implants, which is such a foreign object to your body and is potentially leaking silicone into your body from day one, whether you have saline or whether you have silicone implants. So if you want to change and you're dead set on changing, please look into alternatives. And more than that, look into the risks, look into the problems. I will link below a decent source for the risks that are associated with breast implants and what you need to look out for. If you are on the fence right now and you're like, my body is being kind of weird and maybe it has something to do with my breast implants, don't put off researching it. Don't put off talking to a doctor. And if you want to find a doctor that believes in breast implant illness, because there are plenty of plastic surgeons out there that don't necessarily believe in it, but they'll do it for you and then try to add on stuff like a lift or like a fat transfer and things like that. They just want your money. Try and find someone that is a reputable doctor who believes in breast implant illness. Dr. Khan was great for me. I so much appreciate him and his staff, but that might not be for everyone. So if you are somebody who is dead set on having a lift for explant, that's probably not for you. If you're someone that would prefer drains instead of compression, then he's probably not for you. But I will say, just do your research. That is the biggest thing. Do your research on risks, do your research on doctors. And lastly, I want to say that you are absolutely not alone in what you're going through. If you think you're going crazy in your head and none of this makes any sense and that your body is doing all these weird things, or you're thinking about getting breast implants and you're not sure if it's a good idea, take it from me. You are not alone in this. I have your back and I am here to help however I can and answer questions and hopefully help you make more informed decisions about your life and your body, because you only have one, at least as far as we know. You only have one and you want to take care of it. So please go forth, love yourself. I love you all. Again, thank you so much for your support, and that's my little life update on these guys. I'll see you out there.